the Russian president held an in-depth conversation with senior members of the press, mostly from Western media. The discussion lasted for hours, during which Putin issued nuclear threats and considered the option of providing other countries with long-range missiles capable of striking the West. Making a particular mention of when German weapons appeared on the battlefield, Russian President Vladimir Putin called it a moment of moral and ethical shock in Russia.
When the first German tanks produced in Germany, appear on Ukrainian soil, it had already produced sort of a moral and ethical shock in Russia. Because the attitude towards the German Federal Republic in Russian society has always been very good, just very good. Now when they say that some missiles will appear that will strike targets on Russian territory, this of course completely destroys Russian-German relations.
Putin added that if countries like Germany can supply weapons to Ukraine, then Russia also has the option to do the same for adversaries of the West. He said Russia's response might be asymmetric.
We are thinking that if they consider it possible to deliver such weapons to the combat zone, to launch strikes on our territory, and create problems for us, why don't we have the right to supply weapons of the same type to some regions of the world where they can be used to launch strikes on sensitive facilities of the countries that do it to Russia? The answer may be asymmetric.
Putin said Western supply of weapons to Ukraine could draw these countries into direct conflict with Russia, to what he called a path to very serious problems.
Of course, such actions will they have already reached the highest degree of degradation, but they will completely destroy international relations and undermine international security. And ultimately, if we see that these countries are being drawn into a war against us, and this is their direct involvement in the war against the Russian Federation, then we reserve the right to act the same way. In general, this is a path to very serious problems.
Putin said that the West should not assume that Russia will refrain from using its nuclear weapons if it comes to its sovereignty.
For some reason, they believe in the West that Russia will never use it. We have our nuclear doctrine. Look at what is written there. If somebody's action will threaten our sovereignty and territorial integrity, we consider it possible to use all means at our disposal.
Putin claimed the West had opportunities to end the fighting in Ukraine, but did not act on them, citing a letter he supposedly wrote to Biden that stated hostilities could end in 2 or 3 months if Washington stopped supplying Kyiv with weapons.
What should be done to stop combat actions in Ukraine? I can tell you as a representative of the U.S. the same I told President Biden. He sent me a letter some time ago. I replied to him in writing, if you want to stop combat actions in Ukraine, stop supplying weapons, and hostilities will end in 2, maximum 3 months.
This meeting comes at a time when Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is en route to several countries gathering help for its fight against Russia. The clear objectives are uncertain, but it can be considered as Putin's step to put Russia's message and warnings at the global level.